Hi everyone, welcome back to Nuskrit. And in the previous video, we talked about like what we are trying to build in this video series. And this is the second lecture on that video. So today we will start building our post service, right? And so I think without wasting any time, let's get started. So let me just go to my web browser. And from here, like what I'll do is I will create one boilerplate project for Spring Boot, right? So basically Spring Boot is a framework, right? So you need to understand it. So when we talk about a framework, so framework is something that has some code written already in it, right? Framework is nothing, yeah. Framework is simple. Framework is having some code already written into this. And that's why we are calling it as a framework. Framework is with some rules and regulations. Some code is already written, right? So we are going to pull that code from the internet, right? So what we'll do is we will just go to Spring Starter, right? So we'll go to Spring Starter, and from there we will basically create our boilerplate code, right? So we will create that, we will download that framework of Spring Boot, right? So we will choose Maven as a project, Java as a language, and we will give some example. So let me just give some example in InnoScript dot, let's say post service, right? So post service is the package name. Let's give like this, post service. So let's give artifact ID as post service. These are rules, like you can just fetch like this. Package name is post service. Okay. Group, let's group ID just post only. Great. Now let me give some project name also, post service. Once these all steps are done, right? Once these all steps are done, what you can do is you can just take care, like language is Java, Maven is project, group is nothing but some ID, group ID. So in dot InnoScript. So let's say for example, if your website is InnoScript.in, so it is given in the reverse order, in dot InnoScript, right? Post service as a artifact name, description, and package name. I'm telling you, like you might feel that what this is happening, why are we doing like this? But just let me tell you, like just watch this video, right? You will get ideas of lots of ideas, like why did we do like this, and what we are trying to build, how the system will be. So just focus on what is happening right now. How it is happening, you will come to know. When you will try to create 2-3 projects like this, you will come to know what is happening, like how it is happening. But just focus on what is happening right now, right? Great. Once all of these things are done, now we are going to add dependencies. So we will be needing some of the dependencies to make our project run. So what we'll be adding, first of all, we Spring Web. We will be needing some web dependency, because at the end it's a web project. Second is we will be needing PostgreSQL driver, because we will be connecting this application to PostgreSQL database. The third dependency we will be using is data JPA, because we need to communicate with data, right? We will be communicating Spring Boot. So our application will be communicating to PostgreSQL. So we need some data JPA, right? So I'll click on that. So I'll need this dependency as well. And one more dependency I want to use is Lombok. So Lombok is a package which basically, don't let you create getter setters. Like if you will give some annotation to that, so it will create automatically for you that, right? You don't really need to create getter setters, constructors and all for for that purpose. So I'm just creating Lombok. I'm just adding Lombok as a dependency. So I have added these 4 dependencies, right? So I think that's it that we need. So let's create on generate, and it is generating the project for us, and then it will download a zip file, right? So let's wait. So yes, please allow for downloads. So we have downloaded this zip file. So it is downloaded in the downloads folder. Okay, let's go to downloads. Just copy this. Let's go to documents. So you can paste this. So basically you can paste this zip file somewhere else, like in some folder, right? So I have taken that folder from downloads, from downloads folder, and I have kept this zip file into some other directory, right? You can do that. So now I will extract it. So this will give me post service like this. Now this is a folder, right? Now what I'm gonna do here is I will import this project into my IntelliJ IDE, right? So let's go to IntelliJ. Let's create on open, and let's go to that folder wherever you have kept that particular folder. So I have kept this folder into Spring Boot tutorials. So I'm into Spring Boot tutorials, and you can just click on this folder and you can open it, right? So it will open this folder for you. Great. Done, right? So now we have imported this folder into our IntelliJ, right? Now we will start building our project. So first of all, you can see there are lots of things into this in the single folder. So you don't really need to take care about all of these, right? What I'm saying is just keep focusing on this one statement right now. Try to understand what is happening. Don't please try to understand how this is happening, right? So try to understand what is happening. What is, like, whatever we are writing, what effect it is making into our project. Just focus on that. You will see me building multiple projects like this, and you will learn everything, right? Even if you will try to watch some other tutorial created by someone else, you will try to understand, like, fine. So now I'll go to this source folder. So whatever code we will be writing, that has to be written in this source folder, right? So I'll go to main. I'll go to in Java folder. So you will see, like, there's a package in.innoscript.post service. So this is the package that we created, that we gave name there, right? And this is the one class that is like a default class that is given by this project, because you gave your project name as post service. So it has given a post service application name by default, right? So it is given automatically, right? Now you can simply try to run this project. Maybe you may get some error, right? And I will tell you that why you are getting some error. So basically you are getting this error. So this is not actually like error, but it is kind of, like giving you some warning or kind of like error only. So what it is saying is, like, it is saying like, do you have added some dependencies of databases, right? While creation of this project, you added some dependencies to connect this application with some database, but you are not anywhere mentioning like this application is going to connect with what database. You are not mentioning it anywhere, right? I hope you are getting my point. I'll repeat once again for you. So while creating this particular application, you mentioned you added some of the dependencies which were of databases, right? You added some databases dependencies, but right now you haven't mentioned anywhere that this application is going to connect with what database, right? So we need to do that. So what we will do is, so we are gonna go in this resource folder. We will click on this application.properties, and here we will mention everything. So first of all, I need to tell this system, okay, you have to run on 8081 port, right? So server.port is equals to 8081. So I'm telling this application that when I will run you have to take this port of my system, and you will be running on this particular port, right? Now this is the port related application. So this is the port related property. Now I will add more properties to this, and those properties will be nothing but related to my database, right? So what I'll do is, so I will add these 4 or 5 properties to my application, and these 4 or 5 properties will be telling that these are the details of the databases that you want to connect with, right? So let me explain everything for you. So this is the URL. So this is the key that you have to mention. It is common for all. If you want to connect this application with MySQL database, it will be common. If you want to connect it with some other database, it will be common, right? So this is common, right? So spring.datasource.url. So this is the URL of your database, right? jdbc:/PostgreSQL :/localhost. This is the port of a database, and this is the database name. So I'll be creating one database into my PostgreSQL, that is PostDB, right? PostDB, right? Yes. And this is the username of your database. That's the Postgres. The username of my database is Postgres. So when you will be creating your own database, like not creating, but when you will be downloading PostgreSQL from the internet, and when you will install it, so it will, while installing, at the last it will ask you some username and password. So you have to give them, right? So my username is Postgres, my password is root, And this is very important, like this is one driver that you need to mention, because if you don't mention it, it will not run, right? So you need to mention, okay, hibernate, you need to use this driver, right? Because at the end, system has to work with PostgreSQL, so it needs to load something into the system. So I need to mention this line: each database has different driver class. So this is nothing but a driver class, right? So this is the package. Like we have created our own package in .InnoScript. In a similar fashion, it is a package and it is a class name, right? So these are the few things of Hibernate which you don't really need to take care right now. If you want to know about this, so you can ask me in the comments, I will explain. But like, to be very simple, update is something when you will, each time you will run your application, it is not going to delete your existing data into the database. If you will simply change this from update to create, so what it will does is, every time you will run your application, it is going to delete everything which is present in your post database, and it will recreate everything for you. Let's say, for example, if you have 5 rows already present in your database, if you have created 5 posts, now you are rerunning your application, this application, and you have mentioned create as an DDL auto create. So what it will does is, when you will be rerunning this application, it will recreate everything for you. So whatever 5 rows were there in your database, they will be deleted from there, and it will create a new table for you. So that's why I'm writing update over here. And if it's something is not created yet, it will create first, right? So you can learn about it more just by googling about it. Yeah, and true is nothing but every time it will run something, it will show me the SQL query. Great. So these are the things that you need to mention. Now let me just create, just follow me along. I'll be following the industry best practices in this particular example. So I'll create 4 packages. First of all, the entity package, the controller package, and then I will create repository package. Then I will create one service package. So these are the 4 packages. Okay, let me create one more, that is constant. So if some constant will be there, so I'll create those. So I have created these 5 packages: service package, repository package, entity package, controller, and constant. Now let's start with creating entity, right? So in the entity, I will create one post class. So first of all, I will mark it as entity, right? I will mark it as like to entity. Let me just give name. So I'm simply like, I'm just giving the name. Like when you will create this entity in the database, so you have to give the table name as post. Now to this entity, I'll create some of the variables like private long, the ID of the post, then private string title of the post, then private string description of the post, and then private, and then I think list of string, that is media, right? So these 4 things I have given. Now I need to tell my Java project. Let me just shift it here. Now so what I'll do is I'll actually ask my program. I'll give it following. I'll give it some details about this ID. So this ID is going to be the ID of the column, like primary key, right? Then I will give it more things, like for example, when you will be generating these IDs by default, so you need to basically follow this strategy. What? So your generation type should be auto, like you have to automatically generate every ID. I will not give any ID while post creation. You think about it. Whenever you create any post on the internet, it may be on Instagram or it may be on LinkedIn. So like, have you ever created ID by default yourself? No, you just create the post. The system gives the ID, right? So that's what we are writing over here. Like I'm not gonna give you ID. You have to create it by yourself. And one thing I will mention over here, column. So column name is going to be the ID. So these are the things that I have mentioned, and I will give column name for everything. Title. So whenever you will create this column in the database, you have to give the title as a name. Similarly to this, I'm gonna give description, and to this media, I'm gonna give it name as media. Yeah, so that's it. my entity is done. One thing I will add over here is data. So data is nothing that if I am mentioning data over here, so I don't need to give I don't need to give constructor. I don't need to define constructor and all, like, है ना? So these things really don't needs to be defined over here, right? If you have mentioned data over here, great. Now let me create another entity over here. So you will come to the reason about it. So response. So what I'm gonna do here is in the response entity. So this is not the table that I want in the database. This is not the table. This is the response that I will be sending on each operation. Say for example, if user is creating something, so I need to tell the system, okay, this post has been created, right? So this response is going to have some, let's say, private int http status, right? And then let's say string message, private string message, and then finally it is going to have, let's say, object payload, right? So these are the three things that I will be sending every time user will perform any operation. Say for example, if user is creating some post, so after creating the post, user should get some status, the message and the payload. Whatever has been created, it will be sent to the user. Why I have kept the object over here? Because this payload can differ. If user is getting single post, so the object is something which can hold anything, right? Say for example, integer cannot hold a string, but this object can hold a string as well, and this object can hold integer as well, right? This object can hold the object of post class, and this object can hold list of posts as well, right? So that's why I'm keeping it as object, because my payload is not fixed, right? If user is asking get all post, so I have to return all post in the payload, right? If user is asking single post, so I have to return single post. So object has the capability to have any kind of object. It can be list, it can be integer, it can be string, it can be anything, right? So that's why I'm kept the object as a payload. Great. Now the next step is let's create the controller, right? So okay, let's not create the controller, let's create the repository first. So go to this repository and let's create a post repository, and it is going to be the interface, right? It is going to be the interface. So let's just click on this and it will give you the repository. So one thing that you have to mention over is repository, because it's a repository and it is going to extend JPA repository. And you need to mention like this post repository is going to have post and the ID is long. So you will be mentioning over two things over here. The first is the data model, like for which particular for what purpose you are creating this repository. So repository is nothing. Let me just explain what is repository. So this repository will actually interact with my database. So this repository has the capabilities to fetch the data, to save the data, to get the data by ID, to update the data, to delete the data directly in my database, right? So this repository will be helping me. I hope you are able to understand, right? So I need to tell that I am creating this repository to interact with the post entity, and this post entity has the ID as long. So I'm mentioning these two things over here, right? That's it. You don't have to do anything in this, just that only, right? Great. Now we will go to the service class and we will create the structure, like fixed structure for our service. So what operation we are going to perform? So you will create a post service over here and mark it as service because this is service, and you will basically define all your functions that you want to build, right? So basically, great. So I have defined these 5 functions in my post service. So this is the fixed structure. These are the 5 functions that I will be using. So I'll be creating a post. So when I will be creating a post, so I will be receiving one post, right? When I will be fetching all the posts, so I need to use method get post, then response get post by ID. So I'll be receiving one ID, and this function will try to find the post by ID. This update function is nothing but when I will be updating anything, so I will give a post and I will give it ID, because without ID and without like what I'm gonna update, I cannot update the post, right? So to update the post, I need to give entity, like I need to give title, description, or whatever media like that, right? So I need to give it a complete object of post and the ID itself. And to delete a post, I will give it ID. So these are the 5 operations that I'm gonna perform. Now what I'll do is, this is the fixed structure. This is the abstraction. I have created the interface for this. This is the industry best practice. So when you will go and try to build your application in the industry, you will have to follow this basically this way, right? So you have created a service class. In the service class, you are basically fixing the structure of the post service, right? Service, you can understand it by name. Like service is nothing but this is the service that it will be offering, to create a post, to get all the posts, to get post by ID, to update the post, to delete the post, right? Now I will be writing the business logic. So I will do one thing, post service implementation, and this is going to be a class which will be implementing all the services given by the post service, right? And this will again be going to be a class service. So these are the things. Now it is giving you error because it is saying like, if you are implementing any interface, so you need to give body to all the methods. So because post service is having 5 methods which are predefined in this, and they are abstract methods, right? So, and if this post service implementation is going to implement this post service interface, so it needs to give body to every method created in the post service. So what I'll do is, I will implement all the methods in this particular post service. So I have implemented all the methods. Like I have overridden all the methods which were defined in my post service. And that's the like check here. Like I will now writing every business logic in this particular area. Like when I will be creating a post, so I will have to return something over here, right? Great. So I hope so far you are clear with this, like what I have creating. Now let's go to the controller. So controller is something, I'll come back to this class and write the body for them, but now let me just get back to the controller, and I'll create a post controller. So this is the entry point of your application. So whenever you will be hitting any request, like whenever you will be sending any request to this application, so that request has to come here. This is the entry point. So because it's a controller, so in Java, like in Spring Boot, you need to mention that is a REST controller, because it is the REST APIs, right? We will be creating multiple REST APIs over here. So it's a REST controller. So I'll have to define 5 APIs, right? So let me define one by one. So public response will be given to the user, and it's a create post API, right? So I'll be giving it something like, so whenever I will be creating a post, I will be given a request body, and that request body is going to be the post type post, right? And this request body needs to be validated, right? So I'll put annotation validated, right? So that it can validate the request, right? And this is going to be a post mapping. So I'll have the post mapping over here, and I will give it a path. So path is nothing but it's going to be the posts. That's it. And what I'll do is, basically I will be using, because business logic is written in the post service, right? So what I'll do is, I will create a post service object here, not object, but I will basically auto wire it. Auto wiring is nothing like you will try to understand it, just follow me along, right? As of now, just focus on what's happening. Don't focus on how it is happening, right? I'm repeating this sentence one by one, like once again and again. So just focus on what's happening. Don't focus on how it is happening, right? Like if this is your first project, then don't focus on how it is happening, right? Focus on what is happening. Fine. Now what I'll do is, I'll ask the post service, you can basically return your create post method, and I will give you that post. That's it. Similarly, I'm gonna define another API, which is going to be the get posts. And when I'll be using get posts, so I don't need to do anything. So it is going to be a get mapping, and this is going to be the path is equals to this slash posts. That's it. And I will ask my post service to get posts, right? Let me define the third API. So public response and get post by ID. And because it's a ID, so okay, let me just first define the, so my post service will do that job, get post by ID, and I will pass this ID. Now ID, from where I will get the ID? So let me just tell you. So it is a get mapping. Once again, the path will be same, slash posts, right, posts, and here I will pass the ID in the path variable. So when I will be hitting this this particular API, so in the URL itself I will pass slash some ID, but it needs to be read. Still it is giving me error. See, you can see that cannot resolve this symbol ID. What is this ID? It doesn't, it like it actually it is not able to know like what is ID. So I need to tell this API, I need to tell this function that you will receive something in the path, you will receive some ID in the path, which is going to be the ID, and you need to fetch it. So I'll ask to this, I'll have to put this annotation path variable so that it can actually look into the path and can fetch the ID, and I will pass ID over here. So you have to pass the same thing that is mentioned in the here. So this ID will be passed exactly over here, right? Great. Now let me create another API, public response, and this is update post. And when you will be updating a post, so you will receive a request body also, which is going to the post type, and you will receive one ID in the path variable, which is going to be the type of long. So how it will look actually? It will be, now this time it will be put mapping, and path is equals to slash posts slash ID slash ID. And this job will be done by post service dot update post, to which I'm gonna give it post and ID. That's it. Now finally I'm gonna create one more API, public response delete post, and it is going to once again have a path variable long and ID, and this job will be done by return post service dot delete post, and I will give that ID, and this will be running on delete mapping, and the path will be slash post slash ID, because I need to pass some ID to delete any post. So these are the 5 APIs, right? These are the 5 APIs that you will be needing to interact with this service, to do all those 5 operations, right? So these are the 5 APIs. So this is known as API because this is working at some endpoint. So like I just showed you in the last video. So these are the 5 APIs, slash posts, then post slash ID. So if you remember this, I just show you these 5 REST APIs, right? So these are the URLs that I was talking about, right? I hope now you are able to relate it. I'll show you through Postman also, like when we'll be hitting these values. Now we are very close to end this application. Now let's just go to this post service and implement the functionality to all these 5 functions. So I told you like this repository has the power to interact with the database, right? So what I'll do is in the post service implementation, I will basically try to have post repository, because through this post repository, I will try to interact with my database, and I will auto-wire it. So I will speak about this auto-wiring and all features in maybe some upcoming videos. I just want you guys to have some idea like how this application is working. When we will be familiar with the coding part, then we will talk about these internal details as well. Great. So now using this post repository, I am gonna interact with my database. So I haven't created database so far. So we'll do it soon, no problem. Now, so when we will be creating a post, so post repository has this power to save an entity, and this entity is nothing but post, and it actually returns you a post. So let me just write post one like this. So it will save that post and it will return you the same post. Now I will check if post is equals to null. If this post is null, then I'm gonna return new response. In this response, basically what I'll do is I will first of all basically say like if post is null, so I can say like service unavailable dot value, right? So it will generate some code, maybe like I don't know like what code it will be generate, but because if this particular API fails to save any post, then it can happen only in the case when service is not available, right? When your service is not able to interact with the database, then in that case only it will happen, right? So that's why I'm saying like service unavailable, it will send some code which is service unavailable, and you can basically write some message over here. So I will define some messages also in the constant, just give me a moment, and I can basically pass it as null because you was not able to create any because you was not able to create any post, right? So this post one, if it is null, so it will return these three things. Now this is giving me error because I haven't created any constructor in this class. So let me just create the constructor. So string is this message and object is payload, right? So let me just create everything. This dot http status is equals to, let me call it as http status, and then this dot message is equals to message, and this dot payload is equals to payload, right? So I'll have a constructor. Now you will be able to see like it will not have any error. So the error is gone now, right? Otherwise, if this is not null, so I'm gonna return new response, and I will say like http status okay dot value, right? And the message, again I will pass some message over here, right? I'll pass some message over here, and then post one. So I'll like whatever I have received from this, I will basically send that one, right? So this is the post API that is done. Okay, and now next what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna get the get post. So again I'll take the help of post repository and find all. So this is gonna give me list of posts, right? And just let me import list as well. Okay, so you have got posts. Now you can basically have the same check over here. Let me just copy paste that if the posts that you have received, if this is null, if the list is null, then you can send the service unavailable and some message and you will pass null. Otherwise you can send okay message, some message, and then the posts that you have got. So these posts that you have received, you will send them, right? I hope this is making sense. We will add messages also, right? But let me just come to this get post by ID as well. Now once again you will take the help of post repository dot find by ID. You will see some find by ID. So you will pass ID over here, and this is going to give you optional post. Optional is because the post that you are trying to get, it might not be available as well, right? So that's why it gives you the optional kind of value. So post is equals to this. So now you can check if this post is not present. So is present is a method which gives whether this ID, whether the post related to this ID is present or not. So if it is not present, so it will be running this if condition, and we can then send this particular value. Like we can send like bad request this time. Bad request. So bad request means like because you are making a bad request, the ID that you are sending, it does not exist in the database. So you are kind of making a bad request. Again, we will pass some message over here, but I'm just as of now leaving it empty. We will create some messages in some time, and then otherwise you can return a new response. So let me just copy from here itself. Otherwise you will basically send post. So whatever post that you have got, you will send in a response. Great. Now let's talk about update as well. So for update, again you will take the help of post repository, and first you will try to find by ID, right? Again it will give you value like this, right? So let me just write existing post, right? So again, basically it will give you, you will first try to fetch. See, you are trying to update the post, right? You are trying to update any post. Now, whatever ID you are basically passing, if the post does not exist, how can you update it, right? First, you need to find whether the ID exists. Basically, like whatever post you are trying to update, whether that particular ID exists in the database or not, right? So that's why first we will find whether this post exists or not. If this post exists, now you can check. If existing post is present, is not present, so again you can send this error to the user that you have made a bad request. You will send some message and then null. Otherwise, what you can do is, the whatever post that is coming, this, because this is the updated post now. So what I'll do is, just you will do one thing, because this post right now does not contain any ID, right? Because like you need to understand this case, like because you are hitting it from, let's say, postman right now. So you won't actually pass any ID. So make sure, like to this post, whatever post is coming, you just set ID, like ID, set ID, whatever existing post that have. So existing port that get. Okay, one thing, get ID. Okay, one thing that I have mistaken here is, like when you actually get the post now, so it is not a type of post, it is a optional, right? Is it, this post is not actually the exact post, this is an optional parameter, right? So this post, the exact post that you can get is from using get function. So you will write get post.get, and then you will basically get the actual post, right? Because this does not return you the post array, like post object. This returns you the optional of post, right? So to fetch the exact post, you need to write post.get. Great. Now what you can do is, so once you have set the post ID, now this post is actually the updated post, and then you can basically run the same thing that we run here. Where? Here, like this. So you can basically now save this post into the database once again with the ID, and it will give you some other post. And now finally you can return a new response with some http status dot let's say okay dot value. Then there will be some message and then post one. That's it. So this is the update API. Now let's work with delete. So delete is very easy. So you just need to delete by ID, and that's it. And you can return some response, return new response, and you can pass http status dot okay. Okay means like this is successfully deleted, some message, and then finally null, because there will be nobody, right? So you can simply just pass the okay, like this is deleted. So now we are done with all of our business logic as well in the backend, right? Now one thing that we are left is these messages, right? So let's create these messages as well. So now here comes the like check for this constant. So that's why we created this constant package as well. You must be having some question like why we created this. So we created this constant package like this. So what I'll do is I will simply define all my constant in this class. So constant. So how basically I will define this constant. Constant means something which is not going to change throughout the application. That means whatever I'm going to write in this constant class, this has to be final, right? So what I'll do is I'll simply write public static final string. So you can simply write create messages like this. So whatever constant to define, it needs to be in uppercase letter, right? So post creation successful, right? And you can define the message over here. The post is created successfully, like this. So you can define all the messages over here, right? So you can define all the messages like this. So I've created messages for post creation failed, error, post couldn't be created, post fetching success, posts fetching failed, then a single post fetching success, single post fetching failed, post updation success, post updation failed, and then post deletion success. So delete has to be there, right? So this is how I have created some constants. Now you will use these constants there because this message doesn't look so good, right? So now you will see the difference. So I'll just go back to my service implementation, and like for example here, this time what I will basically do is I will simply write constant dot post updation. Sorry, this is a creation, right? So post creation successful. So this looks much clear, right? Much cleaner and clear, right? Similarly here I will simply write constant dot post post creation failed, right? Similarly here also I will be writing like this is get post na, so posts, sorry, constant dot posts fetching success, right? And similarly I will be writing fetching, sorry, constant class dot fetching posts fetching failed. In a similar fashion I will write constant class dot fetching, so post fetching success, and then constant class fetching, so single post fetching failed. In a similar fashion I will write for this update post as well, like constant one thing I have mistaken, I just just one second, I have basically reversed it. So this is the null case, right? So this message will actually come over here, like this will come over here, and this will go there. Yep, fine, just reversed it actually in every case, no problem. So this message will come actually here. Oops. So this message will actually come over here, and this message will basically go there, failed, right? Similarly this post message will come over here, and this message will actually go there, right? Great. Now in the update as well, this is constant dot update failed, and this is basically the success, the constant dot update success. In a similar fashion I will write here post constant dot deletion success, right? So now we are done finally with this service class as well. You will get the complete code in the GitHub repo, right? So right now just I hope you are clear with these 5 APIs, right? Now our service is finally ready to run. The only thing that we need to do is just have the database present, right? So what I'll do is I'll simply create I'll just have open my PG admin, and we will create one database into our PostgreSQL, right? That is PostDB, right? And everything it will done, like it will do everything for us. We don't. So let me just give the password. Okay, now let me just create a new database and PostDB. That's it. I'm just giving the PostDB name and save. I don't need to do anything. So I have just created the PostDB. We don't have any tables in the schema, you can see. So initially we don't have any tables. You can see I have just clicked on this, but still you don't have any tables. Now when I will run this application is enough smart to find the DB, because I have mentioned it in application.properties file that you need to interact with this DB. It will just check for this database whether it's present in my system or not, in my database or not. If this particular database is present in my database, it is gonna create entities, all the entities by itself. That's the power of Hibernate, right? And that's why we are written update over here. Like if you don't find any table, this is the table, post is a table, because I have entity written over here. If I have written entity over here, that means this program, this application is enough smart in itself that it will first interact with the database and it will see whether there is some entity with name post or not. If not, it will create for me, right? So I hope this should run. Let's try to run this application. Let me just run this. Let me just, okay, great. So now you can see, so this Tomcat started on this port number 8081, and so all the SQLs are also done, I think. And let's get back to the Postman and see whether it's working or not. So I have defined these 5 APIs for me, right? So let's create a first post for us, right? So this is a create post API, and let's try to create a first post. So first post, let me just change this. So let's say this tour to Paris. Let me like this, write this tour to Paris, and let's write the description of the post. Say for example, it was a great trip to Paris, right? It was a great trip to Paris. And let's say so this is the like point when I was telling you, like, media is something that you select from your gallery, but your system actually after selecting saves it somewhere, and from there it fetches the URL of the image, right? So because you really can't save the data like the image into the database, right? So those have the different blob storages, right? So you will just save the URL of the post. So this post has this URL associated with it, so it will save it like this. So like maybe some url.com images image.jpg, you may attach multiple images as well. Let's say if you want to attach one more image, let's say image2.jpg. even if you want to attach some video as well, so maybe video is maybe getting saved into some video folder, and then you can have, let's say, video.mp4, right? So let's say you have attached these 3 medias. One more thing, let me show you. So if you'll go to this table, let me just refresh it for you. Now you can see that the post table is there, right? Because we ran our application. So when we ran our application, my application actually found that there is some entity, there is one entity which needs to be created. So it created one entity for me. But right now you will see, like, if I will just go to the query tool, and if I run a select query, select star from post table, and if I just select this and run this, so you will see that there is no data in the database, right? So now let me just hit this. So the type of the post request is post, the URL is this, and the body is this, and you just have to make these changes. Like, just make sure, like, you have selected body, then you have selected row, then you have selected JSON from here, and then finally this is the body, right? This is the body. Now click on send. Okay, so this is saying like 406 not acceptable. Why? So the application is working fine. Like, I can see the data is saved into my database. It was a great trip to Paris. To Paris is a title. Okay, but I think there is some mistake with our code. I think we have HTTP media type not acceptable, exception no acceptable representation. Okay, let me just go back to the post. I think I'm sending everything in place. Okay, let's try to get the API get post. Let's try to run the get post. Let me just check the ID. So ID is 1. Let's try to hit this get post by ID by 1. Okay, this says some error is there, not acceptable, post/1. Why? So 8081 is the URL, right? Let's check once again. Yeah, definitely it should be 8081 only. Okay, let's check this like error. What is this error? HTTP media type not acceptable. Media type not acceptable exception. Let's try to run this once again and see whether it's working or not. Okay, now let's try to get the word. Okay, got it. So the problem was like I think I didn't mention data over here, right? So because I was not mentioning data, so it was not able to, refine it properly, like what this response means, like why, like it was not able to define the body. And so basically it was not defining this particular response, and that's what the problem was. So I just had to mention data over here because it's a Lombok package. I haven't defined any getter setter, any true string value, nothing else. So I just need to tell my system, okay, this is the data, like you need to take care of it, right? And now you can see, like if I'll once again go to the create post, and let me just have to New York, and let's say it was a great trip to New York. And let's say I don't want to add multiple images, I just want to add one image. And let's say that image name is, let's say family.jpg, right? And let's save this. So if I save this, now you can see like post is created successfully. The ID is to New York, and it was a great trip to New York. Now if you'll just go and get post, so you will see like it will fetch you all the post, the first post, the second post as well, right? If you will try to get any specific post by ID, so you will be able to see the ID to New York. If you will try to get any post with some ID which does not exist in the database, it will give you some bad request, error, post couldn't be fetched. So that's, now you need to understand like why this is giving me response like this. So because this is what I have defined. So this is the response class that I have defined, HTTP status, message and payload, right? So this is the thing that I have defined, and this is how I am writing my code. So when see how this is working. So whenever you pass this URL like this, so basically it searches for a URL like this first of all. So in our code, the URL like this is this one with some get API. So it goes there. It actually pass this ID which is 3 into this get post by ID method. It goes there. Let's go to the implementation. Now once it comes here, it will actually try to find the data with ID 3. Now it actually checks whether this particular post with ID 3 is present in the database or not. It says no, it's not present. That means it will just go there. It will basically give me the bad request value, which is 400. And then finally it gives me post fetching failed. And that's why you are basically getting this error post couldn't be fetched. So if you'll go and check this particular value, so you will see error post couldn't be fetched, right? And then payload is null, and hence you are getting null as well, right? So that's how it is working. Now let's try to update the post. So I want to update the second, like I want to update the post number 2, and let me just paste, let me just get the body for this. So I think this was the body for the post number 2. Let me just paste it. So this was my original post, right? So I want to update this particular post. Let's say I don't want to change the title, I want to change the description, because mostly that's how you do. You maybe like you maybe want to add some more description. We met a lot of people, and let's say you want to add one more picture, let's say family2.jpg. So you have added one more picture, and you have made some changes in the description, and now you are updating this post number 2 as well. Now let's click on send, and you will see the same ID with the same ID post now is updated, right? And now if you will go to the get posts, and you will click on the posts, so you will see the ID, the first post is same, but the second post is now has changed, right? The second post is now changed, and the whole data is coming from the database. Now if you go to the database, if you'll refresh it, so you will see like it was a great trip to New York. So all the changes that has happened in this particular value only, like in this row only. And similarly, if you want to delete any post, you can go to the delete. You have to just make sure like this is the URL, all the settings are like this, delete request, right? And now what you can do is you can simply hit delete on this. So just send, and it says like posted deleted successfully. So we have deleted post with ID 1. We have deleted post with ID 1. And now if you'll just go and get post by ID with 1, so you will see like error post couldn't be fetched, because there is no ID, there is no post which exists with this ID. Now let's try to delete any post which is having, let's say, ID 3. So you also know like there is no post with ID 3, and if I click on this, तो it still says post is deleted successfully, but ideally there is no request, like there is no post with this id, but still it says like post is deleted successfully. That means we are missing something, right? So let's go back and make changes to this code. So let's go to the implementation, and wherever we have deleted this, so before deleting actually we will first check like this. Let's first check कि whether this id that is user is giving, whether some post exists with this id or not. So we will check, like if post exists, just get the post. If post is present, so if the post is not present, so we are gonna give the user this bad request, and we will say like post deletion failed, post deletion not success but failed. I know that this message is still not there. Let's just create this message, and let's go to the constant and just copy this, and post deletion failed, right? And let's say like post couldn't be deleted, post couldn't be deleted, right? So we can pass this kind of message to the user. Now let's rerun the application once again, and you will see like this time if I'll pass IDS3, so it will give me some other message, right? Yep. So the application is now running, and let's go back and just try to delete the post with ID3. So now you can see like it is giving me some bad request, and the post couldn't be deleted, right? So that's how this is how we have created our whole application. So this is the post, like this is the folder structure. So in the next video, I'll try to add more complexity to this scenario. Maybe we will have something else. Maybe like now we are creating a post. Maybe in the next video we'll be having something which will be having like post and comments. So each post will have multiple comments as well. Then you will be able to create comments to any post. So we will add more complexity to this project, and I hope you have enjoyed this video and you have learned something. So you can let me know like what do you want, what changes you want, what specific things you want in the next video, right? So till then, bye bye, and सब्सक्राइब कर देना यार, ठीक है? चलो देन बाय, मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, बाय बाय फॉर नाउ।